You've done the work, you earned the role, and you even collected the receipts. But when you walk into the room, you still move like a guest instead of somebody that belongs there. This conversation is about that gap. Yes. Hey, hello, hello, hello. I am Natasha, and this is The Quiet Mic. This is where we talk about what it really looks like to lead with quiet authority without turning yourself into a performance. Okay. If you are a quiet leader or an entrepreneur or a professional who has done the work, but still feels like you're sneaking into rooms that you know you've earned, this space is for you. Okay. If you're new here, first of all, let me say, hey, hello, and welcome. We are streaming live today on LinkedIn and on YouTube. So if you're joining us today on YouTube, while you're here, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're on LinkedIn, feel free to connect and follow there as well so you don't miss our future conversations. And if you've been here before and this already sounds like your story, go ahead and make sure that you share it with another quiet leader who you know needs to hear it. Okay. Also, for those that may be new here, this is the Quiet Authority Conversations. This is my weekly live series where I get real about leadership, voice, and presence for people who do not want to pretend to be somebody that they're not. Okay. Now, today we're going to talk about audacity. But it's not the kind that takes over the room just to be seen, right? It's not the loud, showy kind that is all performance and no substance. I want to talk about what I call quiet audacity. Now, I know you're probably wondering, what is she talking about, this quiet audacity? Well, here's why I call it quiet audacity. Quiet audacity is what it looks like when you finally accept that you are not on trial anymore. This is not a trial basis. You already passed the test. They already hired you. They invited you. They booked you, or they even promoted you. But you still out here moving as if you're trying to prove that you deserve to be here. That's what we're going to talk about. You know, the kind that you stay on the sidelines even though people are looking to you for direction, or you downplay your ideas even though they're stronger than what's already at the table. Or better yet, you make yourself smaller in rooms that you spent years preparing to enter. You see, audacity for quiet leaders is not about becoming loud. I want to be clear about that. It is about finally acting like you belong in the rooms that you keep preparing yourself for. That's what it's about. And that's what we're unpacking today. Now, here is what I see a lot of quiet leaders and a lot of quiet leaders and entrepreneurs. You are the one who over prepares for a meeting. And then when it's your time to speak, you apologize before you even open your mouth. Or you are the one who has the receipts, because we love receipts, and you have that track record and you have the lived experience, but you introduce yourself like you just started yesterday. Yeah, you. Or you are the one who can clearly see what is broken, but then you sit on your insight until the moment passes. And then you beat yourself up later on for staying quiet. Yeah. You see, on the outside, it can look humble, it can look agreeable, it can even look like you're being a team player, right? But on the inside, it's draining. You leave the rooms asking, why did I hold back again? Or why did I play small again? Or why did I sit in a corner when I should have been at the table? Okay. That's a common one. But here's the part that we don't say out loud. When you move like a visitor in your own role, people notice. They may respect your work, but they don't experience your presence as leadership. Okay. They don't experience it as leadership. It's not because you're quiet, but it is because you're hesitant about your own place in that room. See, you see, quiet audacity is not the thought or feeling of, I'm better than everybody here. That's not what this is about. Quiet audacity is knowing that I have something real to offer here, and I'm going to move like I know that that's true. Okay. That's the shift. Okay. That's what that looks like. So today, I'm going to give you, I'm not going to give you rules. Let me be clear. I'm not going to give you rules. I'm not even going to give you a 5-step formula. What I am going to do is just share 4 realizations about quiet audacity that changed how I show up and that I believe can help shift something for you too. Okay. So let's go ahead and walk through each one. Okay. You ready? You ready? All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Realization number 1, you are not auditioning anymore. Nope, your days of auditioning are done. A lot of quiet leaders move through their careers like every room is an audition. Every meeting feels like, let me go ahead and prove that I deserve to be here. Every project feels like, if I mess this up, they're finally will see that I'm not enough. Yeah, every introduction feels like, let me play myself down so no one thinks that I'm doing too much. Here's the truth. You already auditioned, friend. That's the application. That interview, that pitch, that referral, that performance review, all of those were auditions. And guess what? You got the part. You were hired. You even got invited. You were trusted to do the work. But yet and still you keep acting like you slipped through the cracks. Like any moment someone is going to come in and say, "You know what? Sorry, we meant to get this to someone else." What does it look like when you still think that you're auditioning? I'm going to tell you. How about you over explain every decision, or you second guess every idea, or with that you wait for everyone to approve just you before you approve yourself. That's not what we're doing. So what does it look like when you accept that you are no longer auditioning, because your auditioning is over? You show up prepared, but you don't apologize for being in the room, or you share your perspective without 3 layers of, I might be wrong, but we're not doing that. You allow yourself to speak as someone who has earned their seat, not like somebody that's begging for it. Okay. You see, you're not on borrowed time. You are not a mistake. You're not a glitch in the system. You are there because you've already been chosen for that room. That's why you're there. Quiet audacity, that's something that starts when you start acting like that is true. Okay. So it's on you, friend. Now, let's talk about what happens when you keep shrinking even after you have been chosen. That brings us to realization number 2. Shrinking yourself does not make other people more comfortable. Okay. Many quiet leaders have learned to shrink themselves as just some kind of a way to keep the peace. It doesn't. Okay. It could look like you softening your win so that no one thinks that you're bragging, or you talk in circles so you don't sound too direct, or you sit in the back or off to the side somewhere so it looks like you're letting others lead. I know you heard one of those before. You tell yourself that you're making space. Sometimes you just might be. But the truth is, a lot of times, what you're really doing is removing yourself from the space where leadership is really needed. Here's the thing: the people who are intimidated by your presence will not be any less comfortable because you decided to shrink. I need you to know that, okay? The people who don't respect you are not going to suddenly respect you because you made yourself smaller. I need you to know this, okay? But the people who need your leadership, the people who are looking for a steady, grounded voice, the people who are watching how you carry yourself, they're going to be those are the ones who lose when you decide to disappear, because they're waiting on you. So what does shrinking look like in real life? I'll tell you. You might say something like, this may be a silly idea, before you start sharing something that's actually very sharp and strategic. Or you say the words, I'm just, in your introductions, like, I'm just in HR, or I'm just a manager. I'm just getting started, stuff like that. Or you let others talk over you and then convince yourself later that you had to say something that just probably wasn't important. It wasn't important anyway. I want to be clear here. Quiet audacity is not about taking over the room, but it is about taking up your rightful space in it. You don't have to fill the air with words. You don't have to fight for attention. But you do have to stop erasing yourself to make other people feel better. Okay? Understand this. Your smallness is not saving anybody. Okay? It's only costing you. Let that sink in. Okay? So if quiet audacity is not always loud, where does it actually show up? That brings us to realization number 3. We're on number 3 now. Quiet audacity lives in small, everyday moments. So when we hear words like audacity, we often think about big moves, quitting the job or launching a business or asking for a huge raise. Well, it could even be, you're walking away from what's not working. Yeah, those are bold moments and they do matter. Okay. I want to be clear, they do matter. But for quiet leaders, audacity often shows up in much smaller ways that most people will never notice. And you might not even give yourself credit for it. Quiet audacity could look like sitting at the table in a meeting instead of in a chair along the wall or in a corner somewhere. It might look like saying your rate and then being quiet, not apologizing and not explaining it away. Or it may look like writing your bio in clear language that reflects your actual experience, not a watered down version that makes you sound less capable than you really are. Okay. Or it could even look like sending that follow up email, the email without adding 10 softening phrases to make it sound less direct. It's the email where you remove just checking in, just checking in, and you just say what you mean. It's the moment when you decide not to laugh off a disrespectful comment, because that does happen. It's the way you hold eye contact when you're speaking, even if your heart is beating fast, you do it anyway. You see, these are small choices, but they change how you experience yourself. Okay. Because every time that you choose quiet audacity in the small moments, what you're doing is you're sending yourself a message. Yeah. You're sending the message to yourself that I belong here. My work is real and my presence matters. That is what builds a different kind of confidence, not the fake hyped up kind. I'm talking about the kind of confidence that's grounded, okay? And it says I can trust myself. Quiet audacity is not a performance. It's a practice, okay? You keep doing it. You keep doing it, okay? And that leads to the last realization that I have. You ready? Realization number 4. The room is not doing you a favor. I saved this one for last on purpose because one of the hardest things for quiet leaders to do is accept this. You are not in the room as a favor. All right, friend? You are in the room because something about your experience, something about your perspective or your track record made you necessary to the conversation. But many quiet leaders still move. They still move like everything could be taken away at any moment. Okay. So you overwork to earn what you already have. Let that make sense. You overwork, you already have it. You say yes to everything so no one thinks that you're ungrateful. You stay silent when you disagree because you don't want to risk being seen as difficult. Okay. But here's the truth: if a room cannot handle your presence, if they can't handle your clarity, if they can't handle your questions, that does not mean that you were wrong to be there. The rooms you are in, that's a reflection of your work that you've already done. It's a reflection of the education, the late nights, the mistakes that you learned from, the skills you built along the way, those internal battles that you fought just to show up. Quiet audacity, That's when you stop treating access like a favor and you start treating it like a responsibility, because that's what it is. You say, if I have a seat here, there's a reason, and I'm going to honor that reason. You have to believe it, and you move in that mindset. That's not saying you're arrogant for thinking that way, because you're not. You're simply aligning your posture with the reality. Okay? Align. Because you are not lucky to be in every room that you're in. You know, you know what? Some rooms are actually lucky to have you. Think about that. Okay. I'm gonna pause there. I want to leave you with a question and a few simple ways to move. Okay. I'm not gonna be here before you long. I never really am. But here's the question. Where in your life are you still acting like an intern? Like an intern that's in a role that you've already earned. Maybe it's in meetings where you stay quiet, even when you know you have something valuable to say. Maybe it's in your pricing where you keep discounting yourself, even though you know the value that you bring. Maybe it's in how you introduce yourself, where you just decide to skip over your experience so that you don't make others uncomfortable. Okay. I want you to pick one area, just one, don't overwhelm yourself, and ask yourself, what would quiet audacity look like here this week? Okay. This week, what would it look like? Maybe it looks like sitting at the table instead of on the side. Okay. Maybe it looks like saying one clear thing in a meeting without apologizing for it. Maybe it looks like updating your LinkedIn headline or your bio so that it reflects who you actually are now, not who you used to be. All right. Or maybe it looks like sharing your rate and letting the silence be silent instead of filling it with a discount. Okay. Make small but intentional shifts. Okay. You don't have to flip a switch and become somebody different. That's not what we're doing. You don't have to do that. You are not trying to become loud. You're not saying either of those things. Okay. You are learning how to move like you belong in the spaces that your work has already opened. Okay. Can you do that? Now, here's what I want you to remember. Okay. Audacity for anybody that's a quiet leader is not about becoming loud. It's about finally letting your presence match your work. You're not sneaking in. All right. You are not a mistake. You're not a favor. You are in those rooms because you earned the right to be in those rooms. Okay. Because your work, your insight, your way of leading brings something that's just really needed. Okay. So this week, I want you to pay attention to the moments where you feel yourself shrinking. And when that happens, I want you to pause and ask yourself, if I believe that I truly belonged here, what would I do differently in this moment? Okay. And then try the quiet, audacious version. Okay, friend? Can you do that? Report back because I want to hear how it goes. Now, if this conversation spoke to you, please go ahead and be sure to subscribe to the Quiet Mike podcast and or make sure that you connect with me. Be sure to share this with another quiet leader who is tired of auditioning, and definitely make sure that you join me live every Thursday at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time for the next Quiet Authority conversation. I would love to hear from you in the comments. Okay. So make sure, tell me one space where you're choosing quiet audacity this week. Okay. Do that. I want to hear about it. And remember, the quiet ones move the room. So let your quiet speak loud. Until next time. Bye.